Good morning, everyone. So in the last lecture, good morning. So in the last lecture, we have gone through distributed log manager and several variants of this approach, like the primary copy. In the primary copy, we have seen that one replica of the data item will be referred as primary copy, and the site which will contain that replica will be known as primary site for that data item. Now, what happens if the problem in this case, in the case of primary copy, is that if that primary site itself fails, then what happens? That that data, primary data or primary replica, will not be accessible from the other sites. Okay, that is the disadvantage of primary copy. Then we have discussed majority protocol, and we have seen that in the case of majority protocol, local log manager at each site administers the log and unlock the request for the item stored at that site. Now, suppose let me check this. Okay, what happens when a transaction wishes to log an unreplicated data item Q residing at site SI, and a message is sent to SI's log manager. If Q is logged in an incompatible mode, then the request is delayed until it can be granted. Now, when the log request can be granted, the log manager sends a message back to the initiator indicating that the log request has been granted. Now, in case of replicated data, if Q is replicated and n different sites, then a log request message must be sent to more than half of that n sites in which Q is stored. Remember what I have said, more than half of the n sites where Q is stored. We need to send a message, okay? Then the transaction does not operate on Q until it has obtained a log on a majority of the replicas of Qs. When writing the data item, transaction performs writes on all replicas. So here we focus on the majority. Means what? Majority of the sites where the data is stored. If that uh, log is not granted for the majority of the sites, then we are not, when that means the transaction is not going to operate on that data item. So here majority will be focused. Now, what will be the benefit here? Obviously, if you look at the steps carefully, then one main benefit is that, see, we are focusing on not only single site, we are focusing on multiple sites. Okay, say n sites. If out of m, say m sites fail, then still we have n minus m sites, right? So this protocol can be used even when some sites are unavailable. Okay, now what will be the drawback? Drawback is that it requires 2 and by 2 plus 1 messages for handling lock requests and n by 2 plus 1 messages for handling unlock requests. Now, a simple assignment to you that you will tell me after you will get the recorded lecture, that why I'm mentioning here that 2 into n by 2 plus 1, this mass messages for handling the lock request will be required. I hope you got my question. Why this 2 into n by 2 plus 1? See, we are talking about n. Okay, we are talking about n. We are talking about majority. If you focus on these two terms, then you can easily get the answer, but you have to apply your logic. I hope that I will get some right answers from your side, but without focusing, without going into depth, you cannot answer this question. Okay, take few time. Whenever you get the recorded lecture, then only you try to answer that. Now, then potential for deadlock even with a single item, as for example, each of the 3 transactions may have logs on 1/3 of the replicas of a data. then what would happen? You know about the deadlock. Okay, deadlock occurs when there is a kind of cyclic type of waiting. Okay, so here, say three transaction and they have locks on this replica. So one is suppose acquiring, then what would happen to these two? Suppose if we talk about the partition, then this is 1 by t, this is 1 by t, this is 1 by t. So each of the transaction should have lock on 1 by third of the replica. Otherwise, what would happen? Potential for deadlock. Now, next one is that biased or biased protocol. Local lock manager at each site, as in majority protocol, requests for shared locks are handled differently than requests for exclusive lock. My dear students, you know that what does it mean by shared lock and what does it mean by exclusive lock? So can anybody of tell me that which one of these shared lock or exclusive lock is important or more important for transaction? Okay, good. So that is exclusive. If you consider it, its importance. Let's have a look on this shared lock. When a transaction needs to lock data item Q, it simply requests a lock on Q from the lock manager at one site containing a replica of Q. Now, exclusive lock, when transaction needs to lock the data item Q, it requests a lock on Q from the lock manager at not single site, but now all sites containing that replica of Q. एक साइट में आप देखोगे शेयर लॉक में क्या कर रहे हैं मैंने पहले ही बोल दिया था कि एक्सक्लूसिव लॉक जो है कुछ इम्पोर्टेंट और इम्पोर्टेंट इम्पैक्ट वाले ऑपरेशंस के लिए हम यूज करते हैं लाइक राइट ऑपरेशन. सो यहाँ शेयर लॉक में क्या हो रहा है एक साइड में आपको लॉक मिल गया दैट इज ओके बट एक्सक्लूसिव लॉक में कोई एक देता है जैसे क्यू इसके ऊपर कुछ ट्रांजेक्शन ऑपरेशन करने वाले हैं तो क्या करना पड़ेगा इसके जितने भी रेप्लिका है उन सब में लॉक ग्रांट करना होगा तभी जाके हम ये परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं इन द केस ऑफ एक्सक्लूसिव लॉक. ओके सो दैट्स व्हाई द टर्म बायस्ड एक्साइट बायस्ड मतलब जानते हो आप बायस्ड और बियस्ड जैसे भी आप स्पेल करते हो तो इस साइड में हम सिर्फ एक ही साइड को इम्पोर्टेंस दे रहे हैं और यहाँ सारे साइट्स में वो लॉक के ऊपर मतलब वो आइटम के ऊपर लॉक ग्रांट करना पड़ रहा है. दैट्स व्हाई द टर्म बायस्ड. Now let's talk about the advantage and disadvantage. Advantage imposes less overhead on read operations. Okay, of course, less overhead because that is shared lock, and shared lock is okay for some less impactful operations like read operations, which is not going to affect your data adversely, right? So that is the advantage, that less overhead. Now, disadvantage, what will be the disadvantage? Now, if you see the exclusive lock, then for the same data item, we are trying to acquire the lock. Just a minute. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for that same data item, you have to acquire lock on all the sites, the replica of that data item. Okay, so obviously it's going to increase the overhead. And you know that exclusive lock, especially we means impart exclusive lock only on those cases where impactful operations like write operations, this type of operations are concerned. So as we are focusing on all the replicas and we are trying to acquire locks on all the replicas, so this will increase the overhead. So that's why additional overheads on writes that may be considered as a disadvantage of bias protocol. Okay. Now, coming to the next one, quorum consensus protocol. Now, you just got that I have all discussed about the majority protocol and the bias protocol. Majority, we are focusing on the majority out of that n sites. Okay, and biased means we are considering all the sites. Now, if you means try to find a generalized version by considering both of this majority and bias protocol, then you will have this quorum consensus protocol. ओके मैंने क्या बोला मतलब आपने एक मेजोरिटी बेस्ड प्रोटोकॉल अभी पढ़ा और बायस प्रोटोकॉल भी पढ़ लिया आपने एक में आपने देखा कि मेजोरिटी में हम सारे साइट्स को कंसीडर नहीं कर रहे हैं बट मेजोरिटी क्या है उस मेजोरिटी साइट्स में कैसे क्या हो रहा है उसमें ज़्यादा फोकस कर रहे हैं ठीक है और बायस में हम कुछ एक्सक्लूसिव ऑपरेशंस के लिए सारे साइट्स को कंसीडर कर रहे हैं और जो शेयर्ड में एक साइट को ठीक है अब इन दोनों को कंसीडर करके हम कोरम कंसेंसस प्रोटोकॉल बनाया है यहाँ क्या करते हैं हर एक साइट को एक वेट असाइन किया जाता है वी असाइन weight to each site. Okay, let's as be the total of all site weights. Choose two values, read quorum QR and write quorum QW. Okay, क्या consider किया हमने two values consider किया है read quorum QR and write quorum QW. Now, S क्या था? S is the total of all site weight. Weight मतलब कुछ नहीं एक वैल्यू हम असाइन करते हैं जैसे आपके क्लास में हर एक जन का एक सपोज वैल्यू हमने असाइन कर दिया कि हाँ इसका ये है सपोज आप अपना मार्क्स को अपना वैल्यू मान के लो ठीक है किसी को 90% मिला है किसी को 98% so 90 एक वैल्यू हो गया 88 एक वैल्यू हो गया तो यू मे कंसीडर दिस थिंग्स एज योर वेट अब इस सारे को प्लस करके शाम करके जो मिला है मुझे वो क्या है S. Say S is the total of all site weight. And now read quorum is QR, write quorum is QW. This QR plus QW, concentrate, QR plus QW will be greater than S. And 2 into QW is greater than S. Again, a question that I want to know from your side. See, from the last lecture itself, I have given one question where it needs that you need to think before answering that question. ठीक है अभी से हम कुछ टेक्नोलॉजिकल फैक्ट को ऐसे डिस्कस करेंगे जो जहाँ पहले आप सोचोगे कि इसका रीजन क्या है ठीक है अभी थोड़ी देर पहले मैंने एक क्वेश्चन पूछा था आप लोगों को जिसने मेजोरिटी प्रोटोकॉल समझ गया था और दो जो टर्म मैंने बता दिया था वो समझ गया था वो इजीली आंसर कर देंगे इसी तरह आपका यहाँ देखो QR plus QW is greater than S and 2 into QW is greater than S. Quorums can be chosen and as computed separately for each item. Each read must log enough replicas that the sum of the site weights should be greater than equal to QR. Similarly, write log is write must log enough replicas that the sum of the site weights must be greater than QW. For now, we assume that these replicas are written. Action stones to these things will be discussed later, but currently आप लोगों को मैं आज ये जो है यहाँ से आगे नहीं जाऊंगा बट यहाँ से ये जो लास्ट क्वेश्चन है मैं आप लोगों से जानना चाहूंगा कि जो QR plus QW greater than S मैंने क्यों लिखा है रिमेम्बर मैं फिर से आप लोगों को थोड़ा सा हिंट दे देता हूँ S है हमारा टोटल साइट वेट्स और QR सिर्फ रेट कोरम है और QW क्या है आपका राइट कोरम है तो QR plus QW greater than S. Can you tell me anything, one statement that why we are writing like that? QR plus QW is gas. Okay, and why 2 into QW is greater than S? Just think whatever the answers you will get, you'll just reply it to me. Okay, whenever you get the recorded link. So that's all for today. Today we have discussed First, measure the things that we have discussed in the last class, like primary copy, then majority protocol we have discussed today, then we have discussed BS protocol and a portion of the quorum consensus protocol. The quorum consensus protocol is not so important, but still you should understand basic facts. That's why I have considered this. So I'm stopping right here.